I believe that there is a subtle shift being made to the color pie, and that is pretty forked up. That's a joke you'll get later in the video. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Today, we are here to talk about what might possibly be a shift in the color pie. Very, very slight, but a shift nonetheless. I was looking at the card Doublecast from M19. Now, this card is pretty simple. 2 red sorcery. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, this harkens back all the way back to the dawn of magic, to a card called Fork. Oh, see what I did at the beginning? I mentioned it here. That's clever. Applaud me. Thumbs up the video right now for no other reason than that. Every thumbs up equals you liked that fork joke and nothing else. That's the only way it's going to be interpreted by me and everybody who looked at this video. So, let's move on. Fork. Such a funky old card. The artwork is terrible. In all honesty, the artwork on it is just dreadful. It's like this. I looked at it at first and I never thought to myself, like, what, like, this is split lightning? Like, it's just like, is this 2 cookies? Is it 2 meatballs? And I guess it's supposed to be like 2 meteors or maybe 2 fireballs being split out. But oh my God, the artwork is just so wonk. And on the alpha version of the card, it used the word doubled, so it just made you think that it would double the effects of the spell. But really what it does is you look at the revised version of Fork, and it, in current wording now, is 2 red, copy target spell. The copy that you make is considered a red copy. It's a funky kind of thing. You can choose new targets for everything. It's weird because now all the copy effects don't care about like the copy being the color of the spell that cast it. But originally Fork was, hey, I'm going to copy that spell and make it red. And Fork existed back in the day of interrupts, right? Which is a obsoleted card type. All interrupts have been changed to instants. So before, Forks couldn't copy things like dark rituals, counter spells, or even other forks because those were all interrupt spells. Now that they're instants, it actually changed the functionality of Fork. Originally how it used to work as well is the fork itself would become the copy. So it didn't work in a way now when you cast these copy spells where it puts a copy of the spell out there. It basically turned the fork into that spell, which is a slight difference, but a difference nonetheless. Now, Fork was removed after Revised. They decided to remove it for a couple of reasons. One being it kind of confused people, and 2 being that it didn't fit Red's color pie at the time. Now, the color pie back in the day was completely out of whack. For those of you who don't know what I mean when I say color pie, the abilities in Magic the Gathering are divided out amongst different colors. And you can see this more obviously when it comes to things like keywords. Like, trample shows up a lot more in green, right? Now, that's something that can go across all the colors more, but I mean, blue tramplers, you don't see that frequently, but you think of certain abilities, you think of certain things, and they're tied to certain colors, like red is the burn color. Well, back in the day, blue was considered the tricky color, so blue got so many of the tricky mental abilities that the color pie was so slanted in blue's favor that it would be absurd to play anything other than blue to get advantage of all these abilities. Force of Will is actually suffering from a similar sort of issue, where the color green in Force of Will, oh my God, it has mana ramp, counter spells, huge creatures. It's really, really good. Anyways, let's not get off track here. The Fork was brought back as a blue card because copying felt like a blue ability, right? So they decided to bring it back because blue was the color of, hey, I copy this, I copy that, so why wouldn't also copy spells? Now they brought this back as Twincast, and it took all the way until the Kamigawa block for this to happen. So Fork and Fork style effects had been gone from the game for a while. It shows up as Twincast, and the art on Twincast is amazing. This chick looks so just intense, and the fact that I just love the way that the art is conveying. I mean, compared to Fork, the way that the art is conveying the fireball being duplicated and recast here, it's so cool, and the flavor text is also fantastic. Imitation is the most dangerous form of flattery. That's pretty cool. I like that card overall. So they brought it back for blue. After a little while, they decided, you know what? This doesn't really feel like it belongs in blue. And they made another color shift, and they actually brought it back to red. So up until about, I believe it was M10. Yeah, around M10, because they reprinted Twincast in M10. So after M10, I don't think they had it in M11, but by M12, they had switched over to this now returning to red, and they had cleaned it up by going with Reverberate. So they can't reprint like Fork. It's not a clean kind of thing, and Reverberate does the exact same thing as Fork without requiring the color shift or anything like that. Reverberate is just a red Twincast. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's pretty sweet, honestly. I like it. It definitely feels like a red effect, right? And we've seen a number of different cards with this ability throughout the years. Some of them are more interesting, some of them less interesting. You have Reiterate, which is just cool because it's the same effect that costs 1 more to cast, but it's got buyback. So if you're willing to pay the full on 6, you can go ahead and go, boom, copy it, and get the spell back. And there's a kind of a twist on it in Reversal of Fortune. I enjoy that card as well. It's 6 mana. You get to copy an instant or sorcery, but you're copying it looking at your opponent's hand. And normally there's not a lot of red effects that let you look at your opponent's hand and do things with what's in their hand. So that's very cool and interesting and ties into the same kind of effect. And also, it's got that enjoyable kind of artwork. Part of the reason I included is so we can all enjoy those heffalumps she's got strapped to her chest. Very, very nice. Now, moving forward, it seems that things are changing more towards this Doublecast wording of a situation where, you look at Doublecast, and the Doublecast is something that you cast ahead of time. Instead of casting it in response to copy something that's been cast, you do this ahead of time. So this is limited to your side. You're not going to be able to use this to copy your opponent's spells, like Reverberate allows for, Fork, Twincast. All those spells allow for you to copy your opponent's spells. So this is more limited in that regard. It does offer its own advantage as well, which we'll cover in a moment, but I do want to stick to the point that I was trying to make, that we are moving towards this new style, and I can see it in a number of cards here. You've got the Howl of the Horde, which I believe is the first incidence of this new variation of the Fork effect, where it says when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now that one costs 3. It also has the raid effect, so you could actually get 2 additional copies off it. So that was pretty cool. I feel like the concept is being transmitted in Refuse to Cooperate as well, in that the refuse side of the spell is red, right? And that has nothing to do with copying the spell, but it's the blue side that says copy target instant or sorcery and does it at instant speed. And that is from Hour of Devastation. So this has come after Howl of the Horde. You have Howl of the Horde, then you have it followed by Refuse to Cooperate, which to me is trying to somewhat subtly transmit the information as well, that this is now going back to being considered more of a blue ability in the red color pie, in the color pie. So it looks to me like blue is going to be taking back the Twincast ability over to its side, and red's going to get the duplicate your own effects more. That definitely seems to me like the way it's going to be going forward. Now, I can't say that's absolutely the case, but if you look at cards like Bonus Round as well, which is a recent one from Battle Bond, it says until end of turn, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, that player copies it and may choose new targets for the copy. So in more recent Magic history, we have more red copy effects like this that are saying, cast me beforehand, then you get to double up one of your effects. And we're seeing blue sneak back into that part. So it feels like there is a shift to the color pie in this regard. Now, in terms of how it changes how things work mechanically for it, obviously, it telegraphs to the opponent that 2 copies of something are going to be coming. There's no question about that. And it does diminish your ability in terms of you can no longer use this as a response. But that kind of makes sense too, because what it does, Reverberate gives red almost access to counterspells. Because I'm going to counter your thing. Well, I'll counter your counterspell by copying your counterspell. And that feels very unread. It doesn't feel red at all. But saying the next effect I do, the next fire that I start, the next earthquake that happens, the next crazy chaotic force that I unleash is doubled. Red's a very instant and sorcery heavy color. Having this kind of effect there makes sense. Having it being anchored to their own sorceries makes sense. And it also protects you from getting 2-for-1. Because if you go, hey, I'm going to cast a big fat fireball, right? And then in response to your fireball, you go, now I'm going to reverberate it or fork it. Okay, in response to that, I can now counter your original fireball. So how it works is my counterspell gets rid of that fireball. Then, when your reverberate or fork goes to resolve, the original target's gone and yours is countered. So for my one counterspell, I got 2 of your spells and you just got 2-for-1 hard. In this case with Doublecast, you can't get 2-for-1, right? And there might even be some silly people out there who would actually counter the Doublecast. So you might be able to tease a counterspell out of somebody's hand with it as well. So I enjoy the fact that they tinker with the color pie like this. And these kind of changes to me make perfect sense. Blue being able to fully copy spells makes perfect sense to me. That's something that's far more of a blue's ability. Masses of mental magic and illusion. Red is passion, chaos, fire, lightning. Like, I'm going to get what I want, like, now, no waiting. So the Doublecast, Reverberate holding back and waiting to do